Welcome! We are so excited to do snow cone ornaments today. Here's an example of one we've previously done. I chose red and green for the Christmas color. So here's an example, and we're going to start off by going over our supplies. We're going to need scissors, and then mini cups, if be the little Dixie cups or paper cups. We're going to need a styrofoam ball. And then what we're going to do is probably need a knife or something to cut it in half with, as well as watercolor paint. We're going to need some ribbon, as well as our glue. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, we're going to need our little cup. Now you can see that the styrofoam ball fits in it as whole, but it hits a much more realistic effect when you cut it in half. It looks more like an actual snow cone, so it's up to you whether you want to use it whole or go ahead and cut it in half. Then what we're going to go and do is we're going to start with our string. This is going to be the little loop that connects the ornament to the tree. Go ahead and cut it to whatever length you would like. That depends on how far you want it to hang, as well as where it's going to be in the tree. Go ahead and curl that ribbon over. Just kind of grab the two little end pieces, if I can get it to stop moving around. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to put a little dab of glue right on the inside, and we're going to put the ribbon right in. Now if you're using Elmer's glue, give it a few more minutes to dry. I'm using hot glue just so we can go a little bit faster, but make sure you give enough time for it to dry before the next step. Then after we get our little string on there, we're going to go ahead and do the styrofoam. Like I said, you can either start whole or cut it in half. And then what did, like I said, I did red and white and green on mine just so you can see a little bit of contrast, keep it very Christmassy, but I encourage you to pick whatever colors to your favorite flavors. That kind of is fun and gets the kids talking about what they like. So we'll go ahead and start by putting a little bit of glue around the outside of the rim. Then what we'll go ahead and do is put the styrofoam top right on top of it. Now the one thing you want to do is hold it on there for a few minutes, maybe add a little bit of pressure, just because depending on how you cut it, it doesn't always cut in a straight line. So you might need to push a little bit hard down on both sides and hold it for a couple minutes just to make sure it stays secure. All right. So then once we have it all dry and we know it's all secure, then we can kind of get to the fun part, which is the painting. So let me go ahead and grab my watercolors, and like I said, you can do any colors you want, but I encourage to get the kids to talk about what flavors they like. What's really cool too about applying watercolor paint, you could use other kind of paint, but the watercolor paint actually makes it look like they're spraying the flavor right on the snow cone. It's just how that styrofoam absorbs it. So once you can see when we're applying it, also depending on how much color and how much water you have depends on the darkness. I would go ahead and start and make sure you get a good layer first, and then you can always go back on top of it like this and add some darker, because I do know once the styrofoam does kind of take it in a little bit and soaks it in, it gets lighter. Now one thing too you're going to see, I'm going to put a little bit of blue right next to my pinkish purple color. Now the really cool thing about this too is just like you would spray the flavoring on a snow cone, with your watercolors, it actually blends the colors as well. So if you put red and blue next to each other, they're going to make purple, and so forth. And so I encourage you just to kind of play around, see what colors. On this one, I'm doing a little bit of every color just so you can kind of see what they look like next to each other. On my first one, I did the Christmas colors. I personally like watermelon and strawberry myself, and so with that, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of pick your colors that way. And so what we're going to go ahead and do is after we kind of get our paint on there, you're going to see that it kind of absorbs it into the styrofoam, and make sure you get good coverage. If it's a little lighter than you'd like, you can always go back on. The styrofoam is going to continue to soak in the water and the paint, so you might need just a few more layers of it. And so here we are, almost done. Let me just go ahead and apply this last layer. And then it doesn't take too long to dry. I would still set them up for maybe about an hour before you go ahead and hang them on the tree. That way you make sure it's the color you want. You can kind of see now that they're blending in together. You can kind of see now the yellow, you can kind of tell is really light that I put on it, so you may want to go back. And then with mine, I put kind of a short string so it hangs kind of forward. The longer the string you put on it, it'll hang straight. So yeah, here's my finished two. I hope you guys enjoyed it. They're so cute and great for a summer reminder. So thank you for joining us for the snow cone craft.